Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here at Eshator in the old city of Jerusalem overlooking the Temple Mount. You guys gotta say Mount louder. Overlooking the Temple Mount. And why do we always say Temple Mount instead of the Western Wall or the Kotel? Everyone remember why?
Not the real thing.
Jews don't like walls. They like what's on the other side of the walls. Now, Aviva, not right now.
Okay.
Sorry. Listen, what we're going to talk about today is how spirituality and physical, being in physical good shape go together. Spirituality and being in physical good shape go together. So just to give you an analogy, I had a car called a Citroen Jumpy. And I drove it for 12 years. And by the time I'd gotten to its 12th year, it was really more of an I think I can experience to drive it. So wherever I went, it was always like, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It was crazy, this car. I mean, you never knew if the wheels were just going to pop off in the middle of the highway. The brakes, until they warmed up, would skid at every stop. So you'd stop and it would slide into the stop, which I got used to and just slid into stops for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then once they got warmed up, then they would stop. Whatever, the thing was just an I think I can car. Now, whenever I would take road trips, like take the whole family up to Tzfat for Shabbat or something, so all the kids would really be enjoying the ride, my wife in the front seat enjoying the ride. The music's playing, they're looking out the window at the beautiful land of Israel. Who was the one person not enjoying those drives? Me. I wasn't enjoying those drives because the whole entire time I was just praying that we make it. I just wanted to make it. And I couldn't enjoy the ride. I couldn't enjoy the view, couldn't enjoy the music, couldn't enjoy the family. I just wanted to get there. And without another breakdown or some other issue happening with this car. Now, miraculously, someone bought me a brand new Citroen, which was really an open miracle that took place. It was quite funny, actually. Someone wanted to give a big gift to us, and they whatever. I don't have to give you the whole details, but whatever. We wound up with a new car, which was great. Now we drove to Tzfat. The car was silent. There were none of all those noises, and the wheels were staying on, and the gas gauge was working, and the brakes were smooth. And everything was great. And so the music and the scenery, I got to enjoy because the car was quiet. Now, when you stub your toe, imagine your toe like throbbing like in the cartoons, like it's become this big and it's throbbing. So when you stub your toe, what are you? The answer is you're a toe. You get totally consumed by your toe when you stub your toe. When you get a headache, what are you? You're a headache. If you get a backache, what are you? Backache. You get a stomachache, it consumes you. Anything wrong with your body, when you get a fever, you are your fever. Meaning who you are is quite expansive. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I usually do go into the expansive you. You're an expansive being, extremely, way beyond your dreams of how expansive you are. And when your body's not well, you collapse into that part of the body. You become that. And so this extreme reductionism that takes place by someone not well is antithetical to being Jewish, because a Jew, well, I guess I have to discuss our expansiveness a bit. A Jew is a soul, and a soul is part of God. And it's like, and your soul is your fiber optic link out of this place. It's your connection to eternity and everything big and everything grandiose in creation and beyond creation. Your soul is amazing. But you forget it quickly when your body's not operating properly. And therefore, it's incumbent upon you as a spiritual being is to make sure your body's quiet. You want your body to shut up. How do you get your body to shut up? You make sure it's healthy. Because when the body is in its healthiest place, so it goes really quiet. You know, like animals are generally healthy. I mean, we're the only ones who would sabotage our health with weird foods and weird amounts of foods and lack of exercise and you know, losing muscle groups in our body. And that just doesn't happen to a cheetah or to a lion or to a monkey or to a snake, a fish. You know, they don't have parts of their bodies atrophying. Their bodies are always in great condition. And humans people in our generation, which is a generation that's you know, could easily lend itself to atrophy, muscles atrophying. For example, just your core muscles, your stomach muscles, which are super important to holding up your whole body. You know, your whole upper body, we're upright creatures. That's unique. There's not too many creatures that stand on two legs upright. Are there any, really? You know, like, I think we're it. And which means that to be that, God had to put in a lot of nice core muscles in the stomach region and the low back region. God had to put super powerful muscles there to handle the loads and the torsional shifts that a human being can make, you know, in every kind of position we can go in, which is a lot of positions have available to us. You need to have really powerful muscles in the core area of your body. But our sedentary lifestyle could cause you to lose your musculature in the mid-body. Well, if you lose that musculature, well, what's going to happen is all those weights and all those, you know, meaning the second you bend forward, for example, the load is, I forget what the math is, but the load's much more than, once you're standing straight, there's still a big load, but the load is held vertically versus a bent load, which is going to cause a lot more pull on the low back, for example. Those muscles are going to be loaded up much more once you're bent a little bit, or to the side, there's going to be torsional muscles that are going to be, you know, going to be at play there. And if you're not built up there, you're going to have what's called, I don't know the term, but what's going to wind up happening is those loads are going to be bared by your connective tissue. For example, ligaments, discs, disc between vertebrae, ligaments, connective tissue. Those are all connective tissues. And what's going to wind up happening is your connective tissue is going to bear the load. And connective tissue doesn't bear load. It's not meant to bear load. No animal has connective tissue bearing load. Human beings are not supposed to have any connective tissue bearing load, and they're not meant for that. They're not flexible things. They're just not flexible, and they don't have, you know, these nerves and how do you say guidim, tendons and sinews. They're not flexible, and they don't have musculature, but they will bear the load if you don't have otherwise the muscles, because what can you do it? You're causing load every time you move your body. And God created our bodies with those muscles. And what are you going to answer God when those aches and pains caused your soul to fold in to those parts of your body? Because someone with a backache is a back. They're not a Jew. He's a back. He's become his body. Now, our society, especially the Black Hatitude Society, but the Jewish society in general, is because of the high IQ, you know, as Jews have one index point higher IQ than the rest of all of humanity. So that high IQ is just for secular Jews, but then you got the Torah community where sitting and learning. I mean, they call it yeshiva, which means to sit. And we actually will say in English, sitting and learning. You sit and learn. And how long have you been sitting and learning? Well, I've been sitting and learning for however many years. I sat and learned for 8 years straight. All day, all afternoon, all night. Meaning I was learning 10 to 14 hour days for 8 years straight. So I sat and learned for all those hours. Now, just to fill you in, a little secret is I stood. I stood all those years because I'm not sitting. I don't sit. I mean, if I'm in a meeting, I'll sit. But if I have 2 meetings, I'll probably stand for the second hour in that meeting because I'm not a sitter. But our society also will even try to draw in post-enlightenment, which in Hebrew is haskalah, they'll draw post-enlightenment lines with the secular community and say they're into the body, we're into the soul. And then go on to totally ignore the body in deference to spiritual pursuits like Torah study. And then wind up, in more doctor visits, more downtime, more sick visits, because if you don't keep your cardiovascular system up, which means at least 3 times a week of rigorous exercise, your immune system just takes a dive. And if you're eating processed sugar and processed flours and trans fats and all the other garbage that seem to be completely within the realm of fine at least in the Torah community, if you're eating that, your immune system tanks. And add to that sleep deprivation, which is also considered admirable if someone would spend more time learning and less time sleeping. And then what happens is that people get sick. Now, if they don't get sick, that's a bad sign. If they don't get sick, that means that things are just building up for something big. And until the organism itself is going to just simply fall apart. Everything's going to unravel, and they're going to meet their maker years earlier than they were meant to meet their maker. They wind up dying young. And so all those mitzvahs, which you can only do incarnated, you need a body to do mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs that could have been done in a body wind up not getting done because the guy died. And a real recipe, I'm not going to go deep into this, but a real recipe for disaster, and this often lands on the same individual, is to be not only neglectful physically, but also neglectful emotionally. One's emotional intelligence. There is almost a direct correlation of the more sedentary Torah communities with a lack of emotional intelligence. They're correlated. They go together. Now, I'm not talking about the Gedolim, by the way. It's very interesting. You know what the term Gedolim means? It means the great Torah stars of the world. Meaning there are certain luminaries that are the Torah leaders. And it's almost as if the Holocaust didn't happen, because most of the Ashkenazi community has been badly damaged emotionally by the Holocaust. And the fact that 70 years has gone by means nothing, to these communities. It's like it was yesterday when it comes to the emotional damage of the Holocaust. But the only people who have truly survived it are these great Torah luminaries, what are called Gedolim. And the Gedolim are unscathed by this. They have, now I don't know how their physical health is, but you'll notice that Gedolim are just above it all. For example, if you're a Gadol, the likelihood of living over 100 years old is almost guaranteed. If you're a Gadol B'Torah, you will live over 100 years old, which is really weird. How could it be? They don't share a gene pool, the Gadol. They did not all marry from the same exact genes that would keep them alive over 100 years. But when you're a Gadol, it means you're bearing the weight of our entire generation, and that automatically means you will be living into your hundreds. Check it out. Every Gadol there was the first Gadol, I forget who the first Gadol was who hit 100. It was not that long, it was about maybe 30 years ago. Our first Gadol went into his hundreds, and ever since then, every Gadol lives till his hundreds. It's just guaranteed. If you'll be a Gadol B'Torah, you'll live into your hundreds. And but not only that, you'll be of incredible emotional intelligence. Incredible emotional intelligence. These people are the most emotionally intelligent people. They would take seminar leaders like myself or like Tony Robbins or these people, and they'd put me in their back pocket for emotional intelligence. I'm an emotional intelligence leader with, I don't even know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours training people. And whenever I meet a Gadol B'Torah, something in our exchange shows me that I haven't come near him in where he's at in his emotional intelligence. But let's go back. That's not our subject. Our subject is that often they're directly correlated, where the same people showing physical neglect also have emotional intelligence neglect, which means that the organism can turn against them. The human body, do you know that the human body can rebel? Meaning the same cells that are there to promote life can actually go against one's organism. The most common form of that is called cancer. Cancer is where the actual body attacks its own organism, which is that's an anomaly in nature. I mean, the organisms are built for their survival, not for their destruction. You understand? It's not normal that should happen to somebody. But when you have years of neglect physically, and you add to that, and when you add to that deep emotional pain that has been completely unexamined, deep emotional unexamined pain, which means that someone's just acting out in all kinds of ways that are unconscious to them, which of course is spilling all over everybody in their immediate vicinity. That's a recipe for disaster as far as the body. And what happens is the body gets loud, and when the body gets loud, the soul gets quiet. Meaning one's soul identity, which is this massive, expansive sense of self, goes quiet when the body is what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? It's compromised. When the physical body's compromised, the attention of one's mind, which is your mind is your connection to the neshama. You understand? Your mind is what's reporting to the neshama. But if you're in pain, your mind is reporting pain. It's not reporting anything spiritual. It's reporting something very physical. And so after the Enlightenment, what had happened was the movement of the Jewish community was to say that people involved in sports and physical fitness are what you'd call either Yavanim. They're either called Yavanim or Mityavnim. You know what Yavanim or Mityavnim means? Greeks. And in fact, my kids would come home with cartoons from school when they were little kids. On Hanukkah, they would come home with little books that their Rebbe gave, their school teacher gave them. And Shalom, table for two. Vivi, you want to move up one seat, and we'll give these two a table for two. Thank you, Viva. You want to bring a chair to this couple here so they can sit together. Just move chairs quietly because these chairs are very loud. Thanks for joining us. So my kid comes home from Cheder on Hanukkah with a little pamphlet about the Maccabee Wars and the miracle of Hanukkah. But what it'll do, it'll show the Jewish kids, in like biblical kind of robes, and they're like kids, but they're in these biblical outfits, and they'll. Maybe one of you will help me more with this if you grew up seeing these things. The Hellenized Jews, which are called Mityavnim, the Jews who had been influenced by the Greeks, it'll show like a little kid in like shorts and a t-shirt, which didn't exist back then either. But it'll show them in a modern shorts and t-shirt with like Adidas or Nike shoes on, and with a soccer ball, or you understand, or they'll show them like on their way to a gym, and then like it's a cartoon, so you see in the gym there's like weights, like treadmills and stuff, and they would show them, in other words, equating physical fitness with the Greeks, of which we've done battle, and being overweight, out of shape, and and just in generally poor health and lack of a physical upkeep, but learning a lot of Torah is the Jewish way. You understand? Like that's like as if they're saying that's the way to our children. To our children. And that's an example of what I call, there's certain things in education where when your children get home, you have to do damage control. So that I have to do, something like that, we have to do damage control over there. Now you got to be very careful. I'll speak about this for a moment. You have to be very careful not to contradict the education of your children, because you can't give your kids mixed messages. At the same time, if there's damage being done, well, you got to be very careful to dance between the raindrops and somehow make sure your kids aren't getting influenced negatively by their education system. One of those classics, which I think there's no one who would argue with this, is that in an education system, if you're the minahelis or the minhahel, do you know what that means, minhahel? It means someone from hell. Okay? If you're the minhahel, you want to sleep at night. You want to sleep at night. Well, somehow you wound up in a position with either 200 or 3,000 or 5,000 Jews in your school. These are kids, girls, boys, whatever the school is. Well, each one of them's a world in themselves. Each one's a universe. Well, if you treat each one as a universe, you will never sleep at night as a minahelis. Rather, your job as an administrator is to make everyone be the same as possible. You want to somehow cut off the appendages of individuality amongst the children in the school, so that you can sleep at night, so that you can, how do you sleep at night? And by the way, everyone's guilty of this. Don't think it's just your school. Here at Eshet Torah, we have a student body of some, I don't know how many kids are here, 150 maybe. About 150 kids. And I promise you, I don't know who runs the place now, but whoever's running the place, I can almost guarantee you that they are not emphasizing individuality amongst the student body, which is like ridiculous, because you can't take Bali Tshuva and get rid of the individuality. Well, the truth is most Bali Tshuva will do it for you, because they're so scared to death of what the observant community thinks of them, that they'll generally cut off their own appendages. But you will see that even the staff of Eshet Torah or Sameach or any Chabad place like Ma'anot, wherever you go, you will find that the administrators will want to slice off the individuality of the people. Well, I think all of us would agree that when your child comes home from that kind of place, you want to pump up their individuality big time. And so even today as we speak, I have a daughter right now who's taking a, what do you call those tests where they check what you'd be good at?
A job analysis test?
Thank you. I love having groups of people. Like with a group of people, like anything's possible. Like, let's see, anyone got a lighter? One lighter. Anyone got a portable battery? If my phone wasn't plugged in and it was going to die during the life, there it is. Anyone got a Tylenol? No Tylenol. He's got a Tylenol. So it's like, you should know this, by the way. Everyone repeat after me. It's a yes world. Everyone say that. It's a yes world. Again, say it's a yes world. Okay? Try it. It's a yes world.
It's a yes world.
Think what it would have happened in your life. We're a little off topic now, but think what would have happened in your life if you were born with a genetic deficiency, a genetic deficiency that you thought whoever you would ask anything of, they would say yes.
Proficiency.
Just think if you were like somehow something was wrong with your genes and like you were born with this weird psychological issue where you thought everyone would say yes if you were to ask for help or for anything. Do you know where you'd be right now? I'll tell you one place you wouldn't be you wouldn't be in my class right now. You'd be too busy counting your money or something. I don't know what you'd be doing. But it is a yes world. People love saying yes. Raise your hand if sometimes people ask you for things that aren't what you had in mind. It wasn't even convenient, but it was your pleasure to say yes and you were able to help somebody. Raise your hand if you've done that. Yes, the answer is all of us have done that many times. Sometimes you've overdone that. And it was wrong that you said yes, but many times it was right. And it was great for you. And you know what? You slept better. You felt better about yourself. You did something for somebody else, which is another hint to sleeping well at night, is at least cordon off a part of your day, even if it's 10 minutes, to work on someone else's issues so that you feel great about yourself. Because the two things there were a couple things we missed yesterday in how to get, what was yesterday's class? It was on how to get divine inspiration. Ruach HaKodesh. So there were things we didn't cover. One of them was mikvah, and another thing was to be of service. You want to be of service to people, and especially service of the kind that is that helps better people's lives. If you're of service to people in a way that helps other people's betterment of their lives, which can come just from being a avid reader. Today you can listen to audiobooks, and an avid reader of personal growth books. They're all available. And once you've listened to enough hours, and I'm talking about hundreds, once you listen to a couple hundred hours, something just happens to you and you become an advisor to others. You sleep well when you've helped people's lives. You feel better about yourself. You look yourself in the mirror and you say, hey, this was a good day. And good days are what make up our lives. If enough good days, that becomes a good life. And the way you create good days is by being of service to people. Now, there's many ways to be of service to people, and they'll all make you a good day. They'll all make you a good day. You can just help people on the side of the road, you get a good day. But specifically, the class was on what? Ruach HaKodesh, which means divine assistance. Divine inspiration. And you get divine inspiration when you help people with their lives. You get voices will hit your head. You will be able to say things to people that you just never heard of, never thought of. All of a sudden, solutions formulate inside of you that are straight from God. And I've had that happen over and over and over again, and often in this room while teaching as well. Now, but back to our subject, which I've digressed on so many times at this point, but believe it or not, we're on a micro subject of damage control, and that is while we're doing this, my daughter right now is in a 5-hour aptitude test. And when she got to the counter to take her aptitude test, they were like, we're not sure she should be taking this aptitude test. And they said, why not? And they said, because we're getting a lot of pressure from the high schools, meaning she should come back she graduated high school. What's it called, seminary? We're getting a lot of pressure from the seminaries, because the best place to get married once you finish high school is seminary. You go to seminary until you get married. So we're getting pressure from the seminaries to not take post-high school girls, because maybe they'll find out what they're actually here for, and that might not be what we're offering. And so they're getting a lot of pressure that the girls should not be taking aptitude tests. So they said, why don't you come back after SEM? Now, do you think we left?
No.
No, we put her inside there to take her 5-hour test, and then we'll decide where she should go next year based on what would be best for her. Anyway, so these are the kind of examples of damage control. Of course, when your kids come home, you want to immediately have them doing the stuff that makes their soul glow. And every Jewish little girl and every Jewish little boy is going to have something else that is their thing. And the best way to find out what that is just by figuring out, is he more or she more intellectual, or is she more interpersonal, or is she more instinctual? And if she's more instinctual, then you do something in the physical world with her. She needs to get her fingers and toes full of paint or something. And if he's more interpersonal, so then this is a good time to be calling friends and developing some kind of team that they'll be part of. And if they're more intellectual, so now's the chance to learn other subjects, and get them learning about, I don't know, the French Revolution or something. Let them start to get a bit of intelligence in the way in humanities or something. Get that kid an encyclopedia and let them, I had an intellectual child, and he read through the entire encyclopedia and has an encyclopedic knowledge base. And this is a very observant kid who has he has over 60 Hasidim studying under him in his own program he developed. And but he happens to have the whole encyclopedia in his back pocket because of the damage control we did in him coming home as an intellectual kid to make sure that he'd be developed in that way. Now, what's our subject today, though, really? Subject today is spirituality and physical fitness go together. That's the subject. That you have to be in tip-top shape, or God's going to have questions for you. You got to be in tip-top shape. And what is tip-top shape? Tip-top shape means that your immune system's cracking. I mean, you're just perfect immune system. You don't even remember your doctor's name. You can't remember the last time you were sick. Prescription medication just never happens. Like, that's just not part of your repertoire. You just don't get sick anymore. That's not part of your life. That's one thing. Another thing is that your foods are as close to the way God made them as possible, which means fried foods are history. You eat baked schnitzel. Okay, if you really gotta have your chicken look like that, at least bake it. It's not a big deal, by the way. Fried schnitzel's not the end of the world either, but you're staying away from trans fats, none of the beastlies, none of those crunchy things they sell that are overspiced and addictive. And you should know, by the way, if you really love that stuff, smelling it works. I'll smell it sometimes. No, once in a while, the guy across from me is eating like Doritos age, fiery Doritos. Yeah. So I say, do you mind if I hold the bag? And he's like, you want to just hold it? You don't want a chip? And I'm like, nah, I don't think those things in my body have a lot in common, but I would like to smell it. And he gives me the bag, and Baruch Atah Hashem, Berei Minei Doritos, and I don't make a bracha, and I smell the spices. You'd be shocked at how much the smell can do for you. In fact, I don't have any incense. Let me tell you. I just recharged my incense thing. I have lavona in my little incense burner, and that was one of the main ingredients in the temple, in the 11 spices of the temple. Anyway, if it smells, sensitize yourself to smell. Smell is fabulous. You can smell things. You don't have to eat them. And the another thing is of what not to put in the body is be careful of mixing carbs and proteins too much. They tend to cancel each other out in the digestive system, which taxes you a little bit or a lot of it. Also, you don't want to eat before bedtime unless it's Shabbos, of course, and then you'll wake up totally drugged and from all the fumes of the food sitting in your stomach all night, because when you sleep at night, your digestion sleeps at night. Now, for those of you who get the munchies late at night and cannot hold back from eating, you eat fresh fruit, because the digestive time of fresh fruit is 30 minutes. So it's just 30 minutes. So by the time you brushed your teeth and got ready for bed and watched a couple of YouTube videos, you can, don't do that. You'll be up for hours. And you might as well eat a burger and watch YouTube videos, because you can be up for hours. Anyway, but by the time you've brushed your teeth and put on your pajamas and gotten ready for bed, chances are the fruit's been digested. So you're all set. And so if you really got the munchies, I get the munchies late at night sometimes because I work late hours at night, especially running seminars. And I get home and I could eat a horse. So you know what I do? I did this just last night. What did I eat? I ate an apricot. I ate a whole giant thing of grapes. I ate I ate some more fruits, but I just munched a ton of fruit. before I went to bed. And I definitely did not fall asleep for at least a half hour after that, which means it all went into my digestion. My digestion took care of it. I went to bed. I woke up feeling like a glazer, which is another way of saying you felt like hell. But glazers, it doesn't matter what we eat or what we do or how many hours we sleep or don't sleep, we wake up horribly. All glazers wake up horribly. It takes every glazer till about noon to get their day started. And so, thank God I'm Hasidic, because at least I get to spend my morning in hot water, naked with all of my community. It's got to be one of the stranger things about being Hasidic is like you start your day nude with all your friends. I know no one ever looks at it like that. We just call it like going to the mikvah. I go to the mikvah, but what are you really doing in there? You're getting naked with the community. It's nothing better than that. Because it's like the rest of your day is chill. You see, when people are like in the black hat world, people are wearing these very serious uniforms, and they're quite somber and if not a little intimidating. And you may be wearing one too, but you don't see how intimidating you are. You just see the guy across from you. Because, has anyone ever seen themselves? Unless you're in a full-length mirror, you don't really see yourself. This is why I say most couples should dress for each other. It's really cute that a woman's like, oh, I love this outfit. And it's like, who cares? You're not going to see it. It's your poor husband's got to see that thing. And so my wife, when she shops, she pays for the thing. She makes a deal with him. Don't worry, I'm buying one of these. And you're going to get your money. She pays for them all. She brings them home, and she does a little try on and tries them on. And I decide what I want to see her in. She does the same with me. I ask her, what length do you want my payas? I don't see my payas. Unless I'm like really dancing, then maybe I see them a little bit, But I don't see my payas, so you tell me how long you want them. The answer for my wife is long. Your payas should be as long as possible, and she just wants me to never cut my payas, and so I don't cut my payas. And they seem to get. I think what happens, they get so blonde at the end and then frazzled that they just wind up I don't even know what happens. They evaporate, and so anyway, but it's not how long I want my payas, it's how long my wife wants my payas, because she's the one who has to stare at them all day. And the same with my outfit. Like, I wear what my wife wants me to wear because I don't see what I wear. And so it's just the basics, It's the basics. And anyway, clothing is I don't want to talk more about clothing. Let's keep talking about health. So anyway, that's the idea, is you don't want to eat anything heavy before you go to sleep. Oh, we're talking about glazers don't wake up well. And then waking up and going to the mikveh, which is just such a pleasure. And I took care of that, more or less. Strong coffee right before the mikveh, which is a digestive elixir. And then I come home from the mikveh and everything's good, ready to take care of that, and then I go pray. Back to the health stuff is when you hit your mid-30s, something like that, you have to get very regimented with meaning you have to get to this non-negotiable place where certain things happen. One is strength, one is flexibility, one is coordination, and the other is balance. Those four, you have to be very involved in those four, at least for 10 to 15 minutes a day. So that, again, was strength, flexibility, balance, and coordination. And, it makes me crazy, like seeing people who wind up falling in their old age. And two things are going on. One is their balance isn't great, which is probably because their core muscles aren't strong. And so they weren't able to, what do the core muscles do? They calculate. They're doing literally digital, your muscles are doing digital calculations for your balance. That's why if, I don't know if I could show you all by going on one leg and bending all the way over, and you would see the muscles doing like you can literally see the muscle doing all these micro calculations. You can watch it. Little muscles doing all kinds of cool stuff through my skin on my leg. You would see it. And they're just micro adjusting to keep me afloat. But people who don't have those core muscles are likely to fall. And the position they will fall in is probably a position they're not used to being in. Whereas people who work on flexibility get into all kinds of positions. Meaning I can put my body in positions. I mean, I don't know if this will show up on video, but, what? I guess so. But don't use that. Use the camera itself. I'll take it off. But, like, here's an example of a position that is it's just not, most people just aren't going to be in this position during their day. Okay, that's just not going to be one of the positions, nor is this one for that matter. Whoops. I'm in my Crocs right now, so it's not the most stable thing in the world, but that's not going to be one's position during the day. But by getting in those positions throughout the day, or like this one's also very good, is to be in this position.
You're gonna get a lot of
this is also, like being in that position is also, that's a good position. And also to make your arms go straight, because if you're working on your arm muscles, people wind up being like that. Like bodybuilders would be like that. But to be able to be like that is very important for the shoulder muscles. And the balance necessary to do that, all those micro adjustments in the balance, which are unconscious. You're not conscious to your micro adjustments. But if you don't have those muscles, they're not making the micro adjustments. And so what happens is the person who falls when they're in their 60s or 70s or 80s is likely to be in one of those positions. Like they're going to wind up in one of those positions, but if they've never been in that position, they're going to get hurt.
Wow.
Whereas every day before I even start my day, I've been in all the positions that every fall could have produced. You understand that? I've been in all the positions that a fall would produce. And I also fall. I fell yesterday. It's a little embarrassing.
Are you okay?
Thank God. I'm all right. Yeah. I was kind of caught by the thing I fell on.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was I was at a cafe and there was an umbrella on a big chunk of cement. I didn't know it was behind me. And I just got out of my seat quickly to give my seat to somebody. And I just hit that block of cement and just went like, whoa.
Oh.
But I wound up sitting on that block, pretending I meant to do that. I meant to do that. Anyone who's a YouTuber should definitely put in the words later, Pee Wee Herman, I meant to do that, and see what comes up. Now, that's one's physical fitness, and the last is cardiovascular. Is to sorry, that was all about those things, but the last is cardiovascular, and that is that one has to be sweating profusely in exercise 3 times a week. 3 times a week. It washes your bloodstream, cleans out your mental faculties. It's just very, very, very good for you. Very good for you. And the other thing is prescription medication doesn't belong inside a human being. It never was necessary in the past. People lived for millennia without prescription medication. And when I'm talking about prescription medication, I'm not talking about to treat a specific ailment. I'm talking about anything that's going to be, that you got to take longer than 2 weeks. You're not sick, okay? You're not sick. There are people who are sick, but it's probably not you. And the statistical probability that you're the sick one who needs to be on the medication that every doctor seems to think you need is probably not the case. And so get a lot more opinions. And don't get them all from the same conventional people, because the chance of you actually being sick are very slim. And that's why If parents would just listen to their hearts, they would say, wait a second, when did this all start for my child that suddenly the doctors think need a daily dose of something? When did this start? If you trace it back, you'd probably find that it might have started at a certain point of the education where you're now forcing an instinctual child into a box of intellectualism. And that's probably one of the points where they thought he needed or she needed medication. And then instead of saying the education system's wrong, we're saying something's wrong with the education system, we're going to say there's something wrong with the kid. And so that might be a time where it happened. There might have also been a trauma. It could be also that this kid's a genius. Geniuses have depression. Geniuses have depression. And they need life tools that the average person doesn't. But those genius kids who lack life tools are often in the children of people who aren't geniuses and didn't need those life tools and didn't give them. And so putting them on medication for depression that's just not okay. Maybe if we dumb them up, they'll feel better. You won't think as much about the nature of things, but it's just ludicrous. These are chemicals that are in labs that have been discovered in laboratories by a billion-dollar industry that's got to perpetuate itself, and it's creating human toxic waste dumps. Like human beings are filled with toxicity, and it's epidemic. If you check out the numbers of modern people trapped in this thing, and it also its effect on the brain chemistry is such that really it's dangerous to ever go off of these things, and meaning it's forever. And all of this is happening at the hands of laws and governments that prohibit certain chemicals in your body, but meanwhile are promoting others. So like, make up your mind. It's hypocritical. Like if you want to say something's forbidden, but other things are permitted, and the things that are permitted have turned our society into a toxic waste dump in their brain chemistry. And it's taking dangerous medications that one can't even go off of. And it's not a simple thing. And anyway, but all of this has to do with our health. And the point is that the healthier you are, the more your soul speaks, the more spiritual you are. The healthier you are, the more spiritual you are. Because when the body's quiet, the soul talks. When the body's loud, the soul's quiet. Again, when the body's quiet, the soul talks. But when the body's loud because there's an ailment, the soul is quiet. And therefore, being in great physical shape is necessary for one's spiritual achievements. Now, you might wonder, well, how come historically Jews didn't have gyms to go to and stuff like that? The answer is because people were involved, 99% of people were involved in physical labor every day, where the actual culture had people in farms and picking up this and picking up that and working on this for hours a day. Every Jew, from the time he was 13 years old, unless he was like a certified genius and placed with the local rabbi to become the next great rabbi of Israel, if he wasn't like that, by the time every boy was 13 years old, he was busy with, tilling the soil, so to speak, and he was in great shape. And and also the females were not just popping something in a washing machine. They had to walk down to the river, and they had to be busy with all the movements necessary, and providing for their families in a very labor-intensive way, and all of that led to them being in great shape. And and not to mention, all the other good emotional things that came with the family being connected like that, and the son taking his father's hand at 12 years old to apprentice under his father or some other man, and learning how to be a man, and just so many other really good emotional things that would have taken place then. And thank God the Torah community has that, at least, is we have our fathers taking our children, meaning I'm taking my son's hands and guiding them into manhood. I'm not some corporate father who's created this orphaned child raised by primarily female teachers and my wife. And my sons are not raised by my wife. My sons are raised by men, and they're taught the great virtue of manhood throughout their lives, and that is just priceless. It's a priceless gift in 2019 to be raising sons who have been raised by men to learn the arts of manhood, as opposed to the secular community that has been torn asunder by men being raised by females, which is an absolute disaster for mankind today. Men apologizing for their manhood as opposed to celebrating it. And so that's a really good thing. But that's a bit off our subject. The main subject is physical health makes your soul. Being in best physical shape will cause your spirituality to soar. Thank you very much, everyone.